Well, good morning, everybody, and good morning to those watching online. And we're in this series called Stories, and kind of one of these, the reason why I chose that video, and so this, usually some weeks I partake in choosing the video, but other times I don't. And this week I did, and really, I think a lot of times we get so caught up in what we did that we think that we can never move forward or do anything else. I think we get so caught up, and I think sometimes anybody in here, just think about it. Have you ever blown it big time? You ever done something in your life and just blown it? And you're like, man, I cannot believe that has happened. Or you just think that maybe now you just can't even move forward. Sometimes it's a vow. We made a vow, and then all of a sudden we're not following through on it, or we committed a sin. We're like, man, or we hurt somebody. I think a lot of times we hurt somebody, and it kind of leads into these other things, or maybe even disappointed in yourself. What happens is sometimes we do something, we get in a direction, and we just get disappointed that we didn't fulfill what we were supposed to do or go in the direction we were supposed to go. Or, even to top that off, you get disappointed with God. God, you didn't do this for me, that didn't happen, this didn't go on. And sometimes I think we get counted out without realizing that there is a second chance that's available. It happens. My oldest daughter, who's, Aubriana, is, and I told everybody earlier in the service that I'm just going to kind of put some of her stuff out there on blast, and she'll get over it. And when she watches this, she'll be like, I'll hate my dad, but, she really loves me because I raised her right. But when you, as when she was, I don't know, like say 9, maybe 10, and when we moved into our house, when we bought our house, we moved in, and we got a few animals, right? Everybody, we're all animal lovers, and in our house, animals tend to get neglected because we do a lot of stuff. We're just busy people. We're out running around. We're doing these different things, and we don't neglect them on purpose. We love our animals. That's just what happens. Our dogs don't get walked often enough. But one of the things when we moved in, my oldest daughter wanted a hamster, right? And a lot of times we go, man, that thing's just, it doesn't even know what it's in for. It's over. It's over before it ever started, right? Isn't that, and we said, okay, well, we'll get a hamster. I said, but here's the thing, completely your responsibility. I'm not going to take care of it. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. It's completely on you. And she's like, all right, Dad, I get it. I understand. And so we get the hamster, and I end up having to take care of this thing. I end up having to take care of to change the cage, to feed it, to do these things. And I go, I'm not going to do this. I said I wasn't going to do this. And so I told her, I said, hey, look, here's the deal. I'm not taking care of this hamster anymore. I'm done with this. You have to do this. She goes, okay, Dad. Well, that hamster died. And I came upstairs, and inside, because we always got to go investigate, right? They go, hey, Dad, I think something's wrong with the hamster. Well, what gives you the indication of that? Well, Dad's not breathing anymore, And so I went up there, and I looked at it, and, kind of did some investigative work. And usually that's left for my wife. She's the investigator. But I got up there, and I looked at it, and the first thing that kind of caught my attention, I said, well, how long's the food dish been empty? And she goes, I don't know, I fed it recently. Well, what was recently? And she goes, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago? I go, it needs to eat more often than once every 2 weeks, baby. And then I looked at the water bottle, and I go, when was the last time the water bottle got filled? And she goes, I don't know. She didn't even have an answer there, right? And see, here's the bad part. I kind of knew what was going to happen, but she kind of needed to go through that. She kind of needed to see what was going to happen. See, the thing is that she didn't just sit there. She was devastated by this, by the way. This is not one of those things that was just easily let go and move forward. She was devastated at the loss of this hamster. And she didn't just continue to stay back there, though, right? It wasn't like every morning she got up and go, man, or we're even dealing with that now. It's not like I have to worry about, I wonder if my daughter's worried about that hamster. I don't have to, it's not one of those things that I have to think about right now. At 19 years old, I know that she's going in the direction that's kind of moving forward. I don't have to worry that she's not dwelling on where she was. And see, the thing is that some of us, we make these mistakes and we dwell back in those mistakes. We dwell where we were. We don't actually start to move forward. We continue to sit there and we stew in it. And instead of going, how do we find correction? How do we move forward? And how do we share the story? What was going on and what happened? We tend to to relive the sin over and over and over again. We tend to go through it over and over again. You know, and some of us, we all have a story on how it got there. How we got to there. She didn't feed it. She didn't give it water. Probably didn't change the cage often enough. And some of us, we have other stories. We got in too much debt. We weren't there for somebody. We neglected our marriage. You know, what is it? We're hard on the kids. Maybe we're too soft on the kids. How do we get to these different things? We're pulling away from people. We're trying to do different things. And so you start seeing that all these things, it started at some place, and now we end up in some place where we end up going. We didn't wake up one day and go, man, I'm just so excited to be alone. Or I'm so excited to be where I'm at. We didn't wake up one day and go, how did my life turn out this way? It started someplace. There was a place that it started for us to move in this direction. You know, we never get up. You know, you don't ever go up, and I use the analogy is that if you ever talk to somebody, and I've had probably more than one occasion where I've had to talk to somebody who's been using drugs for years and years. They never ever started using drugs with the intention of stealing their parents' TV or to alienate their friends. Somebody always sold them some sort of lie. And a lot of times we're sold a lie. A lot of times we're sold a lie from the devil, or we're sold a lie to where we're told that's going to be fun, or you're going to enjoy this, or this is going to, you know, it's only one time. Well, a lot of times it's just destructive. It just tears us apart. And so we don't ever really look at how we get there. And so if everybody got the true thing, if somebody showed up and they were like, hey, I'd like you to use some of these drugs with me. And they go, just by the way, I'm going to let you know where we're going to end up after this. You're going to steal your parents' TV. You're going to take money from everybody. And your face is never going to look the same, and you're going to age 25 years in the next 4 weeks. You'd be like, sign me up. No, we get told a lie. Nobody ever signs up and be like, that's going to be great. Let's do this. No. It's, you know, and so what lie have you been sold that you're continuing to go on that holds you back from actually moving forward and sharing your story? You know, Peter, if we're going to spend some time in Luke 22, and so Peter, you know, he deserved to be counted out. He did. You know, you start looking at this, he deserved to be just kind of like, hey, it's not going the direction. And so Luke 22, before Jesus betrayed, he tells the disciples, he goes, hey, you guys are going to fall away on account of what's going to happen. You're going to pull back. You're not going to be this, you know, you may say that you're going to be here, but I already know it's not going to happen. And Peter, you gotta love his heart, right? He's the guy that if you're getting ready to get in a fight, he's the guy that's behind you. I got your back, bro. I got this for you. I'll be here. And then something jumps off. He's the first one that's gone. You know, and this is kind of what happens. He goes, you know, and Peter says, if everybody else leaves, I won't. I'll be there, boss. I'll be there. You can count on me. And Jesus responds and goes, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. And he goes, no, I promise you. Even if I have to die with you, I'll be there. I'm not going anywhere. And, you know, and we know kind of how it turns out. Peter denies even knowing Jesus, not once, not twice, but 3 times. You know, and just if you want to, we're going to open up to Luke 22, verse 54. And it says, then seizing Jesus, they led him away, and they took him to the house of the high priest. And this is kind of the key line right here. And it says, then Peter followed at a distance. And when someone there had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard, they had sat down together. Peter sat down with them. Now, Peter's mistakes, just kind of when we get here, there's 2 mistakes that he kind of makes. The first one we'll spend a little bit of time on. The second one we'll spend some more. The first one is he underestimated his own weakness. Isn't that what happens a lot of times? We think that we are just amazing. We're strong. We can do whatever. We can get through this. We can carry the weight of the world. And see, the thing is that Peter thought the same things back then, but he underestimated his own weakness. In 1 Corinthians 10, it says, if you think you're standing firm, be careful. If you think you're standing firm, be careful, because that can be just pulled away from you anytime. It can be pulled from right. See, here's the thing. Anybody in here, we've seen the kind of what's happened at Lake Oroville, right? The dam that's kind of, they thought that the spillway, it's made out of concrete. It's great, you know, they may go, hey, it needs some maintenance stuff, but hey, it's not going anywhere. That's firm. That's good. And then the overflow spillway had the same issues. They go, hey, we don't even have to worry about that. You know, we're in a drought. They thought that everything was standing firm. And then all of a sudden, 100,000 people had to be evacuated. You know, out of nowhere, it comes up and they go, oh, wait a minute, we didn't count on this. And this is what happens with us, is that we get to this point, we think that everything's going good, and then the rug gets yanked from underneath us. We think that everything's going perfect, and then we lose our job. We think that everything's going good, and all of a sudden that unexpected bill shows up. And we think that everything's happening. We don't really realize that even on the firm ground that we could be standing on, that sometimes it could be just pulled from underneath us, and we could be left off kiltered, and we just don't know what's going to happen and what direction to go. See, a lot of times when we think we're strong, we're really weak. We might think we're strong, but or we're self-controlled, but really, we can lose our temper at an annoying driver. That's like for me. I'll just tell you, I am one of those people. I get in the car, and I'm very self-controlled. I can talk. I can usually, my wife doesn't think so, but I'm very self-controlled when I have conversations with, as I'm talking and as I'm talking with people. I'm usually, because I don't, sometimes you say things to me and I go, I didn't need to know that, but I'll just go, hey, tell me more. I'd like to know more of your deep, dark secrets. And but when I get into the car, I'll be driving along, and somebody will do something, and they'll drive in such a way that it makes me question how they ever got a driver's license. I go, who did you show that method to? And who did you show? Or did you sell out the window? Hit send already. Come on, let's go. And so sometimes I get a little upset, and I'll say something, and what I realize is that nobody actually hears me, except for the windshield and the passengers of my vehicle. They hear me. I go, what's wrong with you? I don't know. And I know this, but see, the thing is that sometimes we just know. I'll just tell you, is that acknowledging that there's a weakness is the first step in true strength. So my weakness is people that can't drive. That's how you do. That's my kryptonite right there. But see, that's how for some of us we have those type of things. We have things that, I know somebody that if you call them a mama's boy, that boom, it snaps. They're in a fight mode. That's their kryptonite. They could be doing everything perfect. If you're right in the middle of a board meeting, hey, you're a mama's boy, and then boom, they're ready to go outside and start boxing. What's wrong with you? It's just words. But see, we all have that kind of thing. There's the right statement. If you don't know it, your wife does. She'll say it to you once or twice. The other thing was, though, as you look at this, number 2, he followed Jesus at a distance. And this is where we're going to spend a little more time. It's going to be a little more important. See, a lot of us were following Jesus at a distance. And here's what I mean by this. Some people are front row followers, right? They're always there, they spend time in the Word. Then there's other people that sneak in and sneak out. They show up to church, they walk in the door, they got their head down, don't talk to me, hi, I see you, and they go to their seat, and then right at the end of service, they do the exact same thing, they bolt right out. They sneak in and sneak out. Now, and I'll give you this other idea. It's because, some of you guys are basketball fans, and so let's kind of go, maybe you're a Courtside follower, and what happens is, especially as there's this transition of growth, and so you start with at the top of this. Let's just say maybe you've never watched basketball before, and we'll just say that's never hearing the message of Jesus, and you see it one time on TV, and you get hooked. You're like, man, that's great. I like it. I like the action. I like what's happening, and so you watch on TV. But see, what happens is that the Warriors got good, and so you go, man, I got to go check them out in person one time. And so what happens is we spend some money. And we'll go and we'll see them one time. But the problem is the ticket price scares us. Anybody, last year you go to a Warriors game and to get what do we call the seats all the way at the top? We call those what? Nosebleeds, right? To get a nosebleed ticket, they were like $150. And you can find some for $50 or $40, or you can find some, but those ones are, they even says on the ticket, obstructed view. Anyway, but that's how some of us are following. We're following from up in the nosebleeds. We're not actually really participating. We're just kind of sitting up in the nosebleeds, and we're just kind of watching at a distance. And then when we go there and we kind of see, anybody who've ever gone to that, you really can't see a whole lot from up in the nosebleeds. You don't know who has the ball. You don't know anything. You're just kind of watching. You're like, man, this is cool. And what happens is instead of actually continuing to watch from there, you go, I want to get a little closer. And so this is how our relationship with Jesus grows sometimes. We start watching from the sidelines. We're up in the nosebleeds, and we go, well, maybe I want to get a little closer to the action. I like what I'm seeing. I want to kind of get to know this a little more. And so what we do is we buy tickets in the 200 section instead of the 300 section. We go, I'm going to get a little closer. And it takes a little more commitment, right? Because it costs us a little more money. Instead of spending $40 or $50 on a ticket, now we're at the $200 price range. But guess what? You can actually make out the names on the back of the jerseys now. You can actually see it. You're like, hey, that's so-and-so. Look, there's Steph Curry or Kevin Durant. You can do all that stuff because you can actually read the names. Well, so you go, man, that was cool, and I could see a little more of the action, and I felt like I was engaged, and people even seemed that they were more into the game with me. That's how our Christianity kind of grows. We do the same thing. We get into a small group, we finally start plugging in, and we start, man, I can feel like it. And then we go, well, what's it like at the next section? And we get to the next section, and that one, that one's going to cost some money. Well, the same thing is it's going to cost some commitment when we follow God like that. So let's just say you get down to the courtside seats. Anybody, what are courtside seats at a Warriors game right now? $500, $600, maybe $1,000, right? Not cheap, right? You're not going to show up there. It's going to cost you something to come and participate and see this. But you really feel like you're part of the action. In fact, you can even look over at Steve Carr and go, hey, look, I think you should do this. You can be part of it, right? For the right amount of money, you can be part of it. And see, the thing is, it's going to cost us more to get more and more committed. But when you get more and more, unless you're just rich. If you're just rich, you just like to waste money, then you just do that. But what I like to say is that you start looking at this and say, where's our commitment level? Because I can tell you right now, Jesus doesn't want you a spectator in any of those levels. He wants you out on the court playing. He doesn't want you sitting on the sidelines. He doesn't want you on the court side. He doesn't want you sitting in the 100, 300s, wherever. He wants you actually participating. And the problem is, we get a little too content sitting on the sidelines. And see, what really is hearing this, when you start looking at this, Jesus followed at a distance. Peter followed Jesus at a distance. Sorry. Bad mic. Anyway. But is that what our relationship, is that what we're doing? Are we following Jesus at a distance? And if you look at this, in Luke 22:56, it says, a servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight, and she looked closely at him and said, hey, this man was with him. And I love this, his response. Man, this is perfect. You can't even make this up. You can't, this is just what it comes out of. Woman? What are you talking about? It's like, I don't know him. It's literally, you can't, he comes out and says, I don't know him. And that's that first denial. And a little later, someone saw him and said, you are also one of them. And I love the response, man, I'm not. Peter replied, about an hour later, another asserted, certainly this fellow was with him. And Peter replied, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know him. You're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. And see, this is what happens is a lot of times we want to follow Jesus, and we might even, but somebody asks us about it, we go, I don't know him. I don't know anything. And that's kind of where we follow him at. We follow him in this distance. I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. What's wrong with you? Why would you even associate me with that? Why are you trying to put that name on me? That's what happens. Why are you trying to say that about me? Don't tarnish me like that. That's how it comes off as when we start responding that way. Instead of actually being part of what he's asked us to do, he didn't ask you to sit on the sidelines. He asked you to follow him. He didn't say sit there and do nothing. He said actually participate, go make disciples. And the thing is, we've gotten so content with just sitting and watching at a distance that we're going, why is it that Christianity and Western civilization is dwindling off? It's dying. Why? Because we sat on the sidelines too long and we turned it into a spectator sport instead of a full engagement contact sport. We've tried to treat it as if it was table tennis. You guys, you're like on table tennis. Yeah, 2 people work at it. Everybody else watches from around it. That's it. That's what we've turned it into. And I'll tell you right now is that football is or following Christianity is a full contact sport like football. It is. There's going to be some fighting. There's going to be some bruises. And when you're done, you're going to be like, man, I am tired, but we won. And see, that's the thing, is that we cannot continue just following on the sidelines. When you read in Matthew, it says, even one of his responses, it says, may there be a curse on me if I'm lying. That's what Peter's response was. He didn't fool anybody but himself. So that's the thing. Who are you fooling? And who are you trying to fool? Are you following at a distance and actually doing what you're supposed to? You know, that's what you hear all the time. You talk to an alcoholic, I don't have a problem. I can quit anytime. You talk to a drug addict, I don't have a problem. I can quit anytime. Talk to a habitual liar or a thief, I can quit anytime. The problem is it's become part of them. They can't. And a lot of times they don't even realize it. They don't even see. You know, and see, I can quit. I'm not weak. My marriage is fine. My relationships are great. Whatever it is, that's what we get to. And we continue to follow at a distance instead of plugging in and doing exactly what he's asked us to do. Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. Then the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Now imagine this. So Jesus had been beaten. So he's been bruised. His face is black and blue. Blood is pouring off of him. And he looks directly at Peter. Can you imagine? Could you be standing there that day? The times that we've maybe not verbally denied Jesus, but we physically, we've continued to go, I don't know him. What is that like? Maybe not verbally, but our actions have showed that. And he looks directly at us and he goes, I've gone through this so far for you. I've gone through all of these things for you. For each and every one of you. And he looks you directly, and then Peter remembers. And see, this is what I think for each one of us, we would look at it and go, Peter remembers that the Lord said he would deny him. And Peter remembered the word that the Lord had spoken to him. And before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. And Peter went outside and wept. When was the last time you wept over your sin? And just cried. You know, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep going in this direction? Why do I keep hurting? And just wept and just finally said that he has done so much for us. Think about all the times that God has been there for you. And you don't look at it this way. See, this morning when you got up and you put your feet on the floor, God let you do that today. You don't look at it that way. You think you did it yourself. See, today was not promised to anybody. It was a gift. You think that, and see, that's the mindset that we have. I can do it without him. I can't. Now go into more into the deeper things and think about more of the things that you've stepped out of, that the car accidents that you thought that you should have been dead in. Yet you walked away without a scratch on you. And we don't talk a whole lot about my hard-headed daughters, my older one, because she likes to learn on her own. And I don't bring it up is because now, she's trying to make her own way. But this last week, and some of you guys know, and some of you guys may not know, is that she had a car accident this last week. She was in a Humvee accident. She was a passenger, not driving. Or it was a week and a half ago or so. And so she's driving, and they're doing 30 miles an hour. In the middle of the night, they hit some loose patch of gravel, and the guy overcorrected, and they flipped the Humvee. So here's the thing, though, is that they rolled it. She had concussion symptoms. My daughter, when they do that, they put you on this thing called profile in the military. You can't go out, and you can't work, you can't do that. And see, my daughter, she's hard-headed like me, and she just doesn't listen. And they put you on profile because you might need a little break. And see, she's got that military mindset already where she's like, I don't need to be put on profile because I can get through this. And so she did, and she's gone, and she's worked out, and it's kind of some remembrance of when she was in boot camp, because when she was in boot camp, she fell and busted her head, and she was like, I'm going to just keep pushing through, I'm going to keep doing this, I don't need to be on profile, and what she really didn't want to do was come home, so I really think she was afraid of me, but that's the same thing, she just continued to push through, or when she partially tore her ACL in the middle of a 10-mile hike and finished it. Instead of going, I need help, she just tried to continue to push through and just kind of, just persevere. See, the thing is that we stop trying to push through and persevere for God. We face the smallest resistance or the smallest question, and we stop. And we almost become statues. We're like, we're not going to go forward, and we go, why is there such a decline? Why do we start seeing such fluctuation in the churches and our community? Well, it's because we've gotten to this point where we face the slightest bit of resistance, and we go, they don't want us to go that way. See, the thing is that Christianity has always been, the followers of Christ have always been the outsiders. We've always been people that have seen as being the ones that are trying to do things differently, because we are. we're on a different road. We're not on the road that leads to hell. We're on the path that leads to heaven. And it's a path because it's narrow, and it's a struggle, and it's not easy, and it's harder work than what everybody else is doing. And yet we continue to go, no, I'm going to fall back. What is your life looking like that you continue to fall backwards and go back to the point where we go, I want to live in that sin, I want to live in this destruction, instead of realizing what he's done for me and really taking this time and wept over the sin that we've had and that we've created in our lives and go, I want to stop doing that. And we get so lost. We just got lost. And see, the thing is that if you go back into the Bible and you look over and over again, so Peter, the word Peter means the rock crumbled. He crumbles, not once but 3 times. And see, you can see that you can tell it. He comes to Jesus right afterwards. He goes, Jesus, I'm so sorry. I'll never do it again. I'll never lose my temper. I'll never do that again. Could you imagine how his heart was? Could you imagine how it was going there? So Jesus gets crucified, and Peter goes, whoo! And then all of a sudden he shows back up, and we're like, oh, please, I'm sorry. Could you see how it worked out? It wasn't one of those, because, when your kids think they got away with something, how do they respond? Woo! Nobody knows. And then when you catch them, they're like, I'm sorry. I'll never do it again, Jesus. I won't. I'll never doubt. I'll never, ever, ever deny you. And see, for us, we're kind of in a different position. We do things a little differently. See, the problem is when we blow it, we tend to put a period there. And if you're following along, this is going to be one of these lines that you want to take notes for, because you want to write this down. Never put a period where God has put a comma. See, the thing is, we want to put a period there, and we need to start getting to this point where never put a period where God has put a comma. If you look at John 21, he comes out, and Jesus goes, hey, Peter, do you love me? And it's not going to come up, but it's in verse 15. And he goes, do you love me? And Peter responds, you know that I love you. And then he asks him again, he goes, Peter, do you love me? And Peter responds, you know everything. You, of course, know that I love you. And then even again after that, Jesus asked him, Peter, do you love me? And Peter, of course I love you. But you can tell that he starts getting a little perturbed. He starts getting a little upset. And then Jesus goes, then feed my sheep. Then take care of the flock. And he also tells him, he goes, look, for a time you were able to dress yourselves and you were to do whatever you want, sew up your own your belt, and you were able to do these own things. And now comes a time for you to listen to instruction and do what I've asked you to do. And to move forward. And see, the thing is, there was a time where you could go out and just do whatever you wanted to do. And you've been out running around, and we use the Luke 15 example of the prodigal child, where he runs out and he goes, we'll use it as today's Vegas. And he goes to Vegas, and he just does whatever he wants, and he lives this life of sin. And there was a time to come home and start doing what God had asked, and the Father has asked. What is it that we've been running from? What is it that we're supposed to be doing that we continue to run from? What is it that God has asked us to do? If you love me, then do these things. If you love me, then do what I've asked you to do. If you want to follow, then do what I've asked you to do. And he tells them, do these things. But we put a period there. We make a mistake and we go, God will never forgive me. God does forgive you. See, what does Peter learn? Peter learns in this whole thing that success isn't final, because he was successful up until this point. But he also learns that failure isn't fatal. And we get to this mindset that we think that when we have a failure, that it is fatal. And what I want you to do is I want you to open up the Word. And you can open up to any story about anybody that's done anything in the Bible, and all of them have had major character failures in their life. All of them. We don't sit there and talk a whole lot about how David committed adultery. We don't sit there and talk a whole lot about how Moses committed murder. We don't sit there and talk about all these things on a regular basis, but these are major character flaws, and yet they are the greatest movements in the advancement of what we do. And we go, well, I lied about something. Or I did this, or I did that. These are the people that help make the greatest movements and the greatest changes. Look at Paul. Paul was a Christian killer. 19 books of the New Testament are attributed to him. 19. Guys, you start thinking about this and you start looking at what's happened and we go, we're just sitting along on the sidelines because of our past. Don't let your past define your future. Your future is so great that if you start following what Jesus has asked you to do and what God has asked you to do. See, the thing is, just because you failed at something doesn't mean that you're a failure. Failure is an event, never a person. When you look at this, Jesus never criticizes him. He doesn't show up. He doesn't get into the upper room and go, hey, look here, stupid. He doesn't do that. He doesn't show up and hurt him and criticize him, put him down at all. Jesus never gave up on him. Jesus has never given up on you. You know, I heard this. This is just this amazing story that I heard at this conference that I was at this week. And I don't know if it's true or not. Could be. It could not be. It sounds like something some dude would say up in a farm town. So I want you to imagine a farmer. And he has an old pickup truck. And he has this pickup truck. And you know, and it's his baby. And it's one of those older pickup trucks, like from the 70s, where it had the long bench seat in the front. You know, where you could, and you guys know you could put your arm around your girl and she could sit right next to you and be right there, right? Well, they're driving along in the car one day, and they pull up to a stoplight, and right in front of them is this brand new truck. And in the truck was a younger couple. And you know, it was a little different of a cut. You know, they had a center console. You know, the truck, like my truck has a center console. It's in the way, and you know, but she was still trying to lean over and be next to him, right? She was still trying to sit and put her arm or put her head on his shoulder or whatever. And the old farmer was in the truck, and the wife was sitting there, and she looks over to him and she goes, "Do you see that in front of us?" He goes, "Yep, nice truck." And she goes, No. You see how they're trying to sit next to one another? They're trying to cozy up and be next to each other? And he goes, "Yep." And she goes, "Why don't we do that anymore?" And he put his arm up on the seat, and he said, "I hadn't moved. I didn't move." See, here's the thing. God hasn't moved. He's been still sitting in the driver's seat with his arm up, and he hasn't moved. It's us that moved. It's us that pulled away. It's us that moved over to here, and it's us that's, not only have we scooted over to the passenger seat, but we tried to get in the back. We tried to do the crazy riding around. Hey, get on the freeway, do 80. I like to bounce around back here with no seatbelt on. It's us that's moved, not him. He's been sitting right there in the driver's seat with his arm out just waiting. But we've gotten to this point where we've taken this failure that we've had, maybe whatever it's been, and we've taken it and we've gone, that's what's going to define our future from this point forward. See, God forgives you. You have to forgive yourself. See, one of the things is that, I'll tell you, see, God knew what was going to happen in Peter's heart. He knew the change that was going to happen. And see, what happens is if you've ever been around anybody who's broken a bone, or if you maybe broken a bone, you know that bone will virtually never break there again, without somebody intentionally breaking it. But it's stronger. It heals stronger. It becomes. See, God takes us where we're broken and makes us stronger. We just have to let Him do it. We have to let Him be in control in doing that. See, during this whole thing, Peter lost some things. He lost some pride, arrogance, self-confidence, impulsiveness, and unreliability. He gained all of the other things. He became, the church was built on Peter. It's built on this rock. That's what it says. And that rock is Peter. He gained so much, though. Humility, an unshakable confidence in God, an unwavering faithfulness to Christ. And you start hearing this and you start wondering what happened to us. Where did we go? He got to this point, when he was crucified. He was crucified as well. He was crucified upside down. He said, I'm not worthy. Not worthy to be, even in death, to be treated the same way. He wrote this and he goes, however, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. Now, I've used this line before, and it's Rick Warren's line, and Rick Warren came out and he said, is there enough evidence to convict you of Christianity? Is there enough evidence to convict you of Christianity? Is there enough evidence to convict you as being a follower of God? Now, some of you are like, oh yeah, I post on Facebook every day some nice little verse, so I do this or I do that, but is that what you really live your life like? Is there enough evidence in your life to convict you of Christianity? Or does your life look like everybody else that's going to hell? It's a big question. It's a hard one to really take and assess and go, man, what does my life look like and which direction am I going? And it says, however, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. Not that you gave yourself that name, but that you bear that name, that others called you that. That other people looked at you and said, hey, you're a Christian. Yes, you're right. When you read Acts, they didn't call themselves Christians, they were called Christians. They didn't self-identify. People called them and said, there's something different about you. You're those Christians. Can people identify us that way? Can people look and go, man, there is something different about you. Something weird going on. That's right. We're following God. We're following Jesus. We're leading that example. We're loving. Where do we wear that title of judgmental Christians? Angry Christians? Hateful Christians? Why are Christians so mean? Why are Christians so unforgiving? Don't wear that label. We're the one of love. His guilt was turned into grace, and his failure into faithfulness. That's where we're supposed to be at. Each of you has a story to share. Each of you. See, we all have this adventure that we've lived so far, and each one of us has this story that we're supposed to share with another, so that way that we can get them through it. Yeah, I look out here and I know most of your stories. I know something about your past. And I go, man, you have an amazing story of where God is taking you to where He's taking you. Where He's still going. Because here's the thing. If you're still breathing, you're still working for God. If you're still here and you're still inhaling and exhaling, then God's not done with you yet. And stop acting like He is. There's a whole lot of work left to be done. A whole lot of people that need to hear the message of Christ. There's a whole lot of, and even Christ said, He said, the workers are few, but the harvest is plentiful. There are so many people out there that still need to be reached. Share your story. Help reach others. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for this time together. Thank you for this message of grace and love and forgiveness and the courage to just share that even no matter what's going on in our lives, that we still have a story to share with somebody, that we still can help somebody get through something. That even though that we've denied you or maybe lived our lives as if it didn't matter, is that we can change that and start moving forward and not doubt and have forgiveness and move in the direction you've asked us to go. So, Father, we ask for courage and strength to live the life that you've asked us to go in the direction you've asked us to speak out as you've asked us to be the light in the darkness, to be the city on the hill, to be that identifying marker to where people go, I want to follow. I don't want to just sit on the sidelines. What direction should I go? What does it look like to be that guide that people look to? And they go, I want my life to be different. I don't want to continue living the same way where they look to us. So we ask for that strength to go in that direction, the courage to go in that direction, We ask that you help create this schedule for us so that way we stop living such busy lives and invest more time with you. More time in prayer, more time in your word, more time just knowing you and knowing what you'll have for our lives. Father, thank you for not being done with us. There is so much that we know that we're supposed to do and we're called to do, and you give us this chance to go out and do it now. Father, thank you. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.